Hey everybody, this is Ashley Jones, and in this video I'm going to show you how to make your text stitch from the center out using a feature that is built into your Perfect Embroidery Pro or your Word Art and Stitches. I'm also going to show you how to change the start and stop point of your text if you want to have it start differently than what the computer chooses, and that feature is available in Perfect Embroidery Pro or my Quilt Embellisher. So let's get started. I'm going to first choose my text tool and add some text to my workspace. And when I'm using built-in text for Perfect Embroidery Pro, it automatically adds a tie-in and a tie-off stitch, and it also automatically trims before it jumps to the next letter. Okay, so just something to know about the built-in text. Now, if you want to have your text stitch from the center out, it's just a simple adjustment in the properties. This feature is in Word Art and Stitches or Perfect Embroidery Pro. So let's first look at how the text stitches out. So if we make no changes, our text is going to stitch starting from the left and ending on the right. Okay, if you want your text to stitch from the center out, select your text, and over in the text properties, under the order, change it to center right and click apply. So now when we watch our text stitch, it's going to start closest to the center as one whole letter and stitch out to each side. So super simple to make that change. When you select your text, this option is available in Perfect Embroidery Pro and Word Art and Stitches. Now, let's talk about making adjustments to the tie-in and the tie-off stitches and the start and stop. Okay, so I'm going to turn on my commands option here to the left just so you can see what's going on. So each one of these little pair of scissors is where the software is telling your machine to trim. So it's going to trim when it finishes the H before jumping over and starting the E. Then it's going to trim when it finishes before jumping here and starting the L. So each letter already has a trim and it already has a tie-in and tie-off. So if I go to my text properties again, but I choose the Command tab, I can see that I'm getting automatically a basic tie-in and tie-off. So I'm going to change that to a triangle. The basic just does several stitches in one spot to lock them. The triangle makes a triangle shape. The line does a reverse and just in one place stitches to lock in. So those are your options. I'm going to change to the triangle because it's highly visible on the screen, and I want you guys to see this point move. So my tie-in and tie-off for my text is now a triangle. I'm going to click apply, and then I'm going to zoom in so we can see that it changed. So we can see the triangle right here before my pair of scissors on the E, and then when it jumps over to the first L here, it is tying in with that triangle before starting to stitch. So, okay, so now that we have seen that tie-in and tie-off stitch, let's talk about moving those stitches. So now if you want to change the start and the stop point of each of these letters, we first need to break up the text. So if I look over here in my sequence view, when we create text in Perfect Embroidery Pro or other Dimes software, it sees the text as a text stitch type. This maintains all of your text information. So if you want to go back and make a change, you can just change the words and reapply, and it'll make that correction for you. Once we break this text up, it sees it as individual letters, and we won't be able to make that change to the letter. But depending on what you need to do, sometimes we're done with our text and we just need to go ahead and make those changes. Okay, so now I'm going to click on the text option here, do a right mouse click and say break up text. And when I do this, you can see my software sees this as individual letters now. So now let's move the start and stop point of the L. So now the shape tool is what I'm going to do to move these start and stop points. So I'm going to choose my shape tool, which is this icon here. This shape tool is available in Perfect Embroidery Pro and My Quilt Embellisher. So if you have either of those programs, that is giving you the shape tool. So now you can see this green dot and the red dot is my start and stop point. So it's going to start here, do that triangle tie-in, and then end here and do the tie-in. So if I go over to my command properties for this one letter, since we broke up the text, I now have a tie-in stitch of a triangle, but a tie off as a basic. So I'm going to make that change again because we broke up text, which does something totally different. So now I've got a triangle, both tie-in and tie off. So let's watch this stitch out. So now I'm going to see my L. You can see my triangle tie in, and then as it ends here, it's going to do that last stitch of a triangle and then do the trim. If I zoom in here, we should be able to see that. And then do that trim before jumping to the next letter. Okay, so I'm going to zoom back out and let's move our point. So if you want your letters to stitch differently than what the computer software chooses, with your shape tool, you can move this green and red dot. So if you want it to start at the bottom, drag that down to the bottom. If you want it to end at the top, move that end point to the top. Then do a right mouse click and you can see it regenerated everything. So let's watch that stitch out now. So our first thing that's going to happen is our tie-in. So it's going to start down here at the bottom where we designated, and then it's going to finish stitching. And the last thing that happens here is that triangle and our trim. So if I zoom in, we can see that triangle right before the trim. So the triangle just is allowing me to easily show you on the screen. You can use the basic tie-in or the line, whichever is your preference, but just so that you could see it on the screen is why I wanted to make sure that you saw that. So hopefully this will help you when editing your text. This is the same process for your fill stitches as well, or your run stitches. You can choose your select tool or your shape tool, sorry, to move your start and stop point. So if I just do that quickly, let's just do a rectangle here, and I'm going to turn that into a fill stitch. And here, if I select it over in my commands property, my tie-in right now is a none. So it means it's not going to tie in and tie off automatically. And then I'm going to add my triangle and click apply. And so if I zoom in, we can see I've got one triangle here and one here. And so if I choose my shape tool, I can move those. We can see that's the stop. And this is the start, and my triangle is over here. So if I wanted this to say start and stop at the same point or opposite, whatever you need, let's separate it out just a little bit so you can see it. And I'm going to do a right mouse click, and then you can see here's my starting triangle for my tie-in, here's my stop. So super easy to make those adjustments in your Perfect Embroidery Pro with your shape tool or your My Quilt Embellisher with your shape tool. Thanks for watching.